All right, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner. I am one of your co-hosts, Simon Voyanos.
And I'm Kodey Stoffer.
And I'm Liam Hughes.
And here we're going to continue our little series on JUCOs, football JUCOs, that is, in America. And we're going to kick this off by talking about Last Chance U, specifically the most recent season of Last Chance U over at Laney College in Oakland, California. But before we get into that, I'm going to give a quick breakdown of what JUCOs are and their role in the football world. So basically, and this is going to come up a lot when we talk about Last Chance U, JUCOs really are some of the last chances for a lot of football players to get to the next level, wherever that might be. JUCOs may be just a little bit of a step up from high school, to be honest. But there are some JUCOs that are definitely, pretty comparable to some FCS or D2 type of schools. The thing is that, obviously there are some resources and stuff that they don't have comparable to those schools, but they get pretty close, though, I would say. And, every JUCO program is different because some JUCO, and it depends the state, because each state is totally different, so for California, for example, they can't give out scholarships for JUCOs. So all the kids there and all the kids in this latest season of Last Chance U over at Laney, all of them aren't on any sort of athletic scholarship. So, and as well, some in California especially, I don't know about all of the JUCOs there, but at least at Laney, there aren't dorms there, which in previous episodes of Last Chance U, there's always been dorms. And so, each junior college JUCO is different. Like some will have more facilities than others, right? But, generally, I guess the average JUCO won't have as great facilities as they do because it really is just a community college and kids just live with their parents or whoever and they go there and, to play football to get better. And honestly, JUCOs aren't, it isn't the worst option to say, because honestly, everyone really does have a chance to a degree. Like, I don't think they really cut people unless it's, for a really good reason. But JUCOs really are a good option. If you play against the right JUCOs, you will get attention from a school, from a D1, D2, D3. And trust us, these D1 or honestly, these colleges in general are always looking at the JUCOs because there's always that diamond in the rough. And kids who go to JUCO, sometimes they are looking for that next chance, but some of them already had that chance to go play college, or they had that chance in high school to go play college, but their grades weren't right. So for them to go to a JUCO, this is more like, I guess, not a step back, but a step forward in a way. But it's a step where they really got to work hard and they got to be on top of their own grind to make sure that they get to where they want to be. Because nobody's going to baby them. Let's be honest. Oh my gosh, some of these rosters are over 80 or 90 players. So to stand out, you really got to stand out. First off, your grades have to be good. That's a given. That really shouldn't even be a problem, to be honest. And if it is, then no college is going to look at you like that unless your grades are right and you could actually get into the school, right? So that's that. But for other kids, on the last episode, we did talk about Chad Kelly. Maybe they got in trouble at their last school. And so, okay, they need a year to mature. So they go to a JUCO, they get humbled. This happened to Chad Kelly for a little bit. This happened to Cam Newton, plenty of other players. They take that year to, get humbled, really, really figure out what it's like to, play football, and be on that grind and be, I guess, responsible for yourself, honestly. Because if they can't do that on the JUCO level, then they can't do that on any college level or even the pro level. So there you go. So those are a couple reasons why players go to JUCOs. And then another reason is maybe they don't get the playing time they want, so they go to a JUCO so they could get, a little bit more film, show that, hey, I'm not just a high school, like a good one of a kind, like high school athlete. I could also be good on the college level, and then they get more offers from there. So yeah, I believe I covered all the reasons why someone may go to a JUCO. But anyways, let's jump into it. So with this series, we're going to well, the JUCO series in general. We're going to talk a bunch of JUCO players. We're going to do breakdowns, and we're also going to do a review of Last Chance U, like I was just saying. So We are eventually going to get to all the seasons, but we're going to start with Laney College in Oakland, California. So, episode 1. How should we approach this? Let's just talk initial reactions. Who were the main characters or people to y'all that stood out, whether it's coaches, players, whoever, for good reason or bad reason?
Well, I'll go ahead and start off. So, just as far as a quick synopsis goes, Laney College, at the time of this recording, is the defending national junior college champions, right? And therefore also the state defending champs in California at the junior college level. So, big expectations, big spotlight, and also some big name players. They had a couple of guys go up to the D1 level, specifically one cornerback went to Oregon State. And let's see, Coach Beam he's the guy there, and all the players seem to love him a lot and like to play for him. And he has this kind of like, he always says brother. So that's like his kind of mantra, his attitude, and he's got swag, but he's not afraid to like jump on a player. And I think that he knows what to expect of players, and he really just wants the best potential of them. So he's going to keep pushing on players because he knows that they can do so much better. I'd say as far as biggest names that you get to know in the first episode is Rajon. He's a cornerback, and his brother went to Oregon State. So he's looking at a few offers on the Division I level, and he's probably the best athlete on their team. Then you also have Dior Walker, who's their best receiver, and kind of like a guy who plays with a lot of heart. He's not super big, but I'd say he's really athletic. And then there's an RJ guy he's a wide receiver. He's really talented physically, but he has some mental barriers that he has to work through. And, oh gosh, I don't mess up his name. New?
Who?
New?
Ooh.
What?
So New.
Okay. New. We get introduced to him, and he has a couple of cute little kids, and he's holding it down, and we get to know him. I really like his story, and I think that it's a really good kind of it's a good callback to what Simon was talking about as far as like why people go to JUCO, because he was bagging groceries / doing like security at a Walmart and packing boxes, and he decided that he hated that, so he wanted to go back to school and actually try, because he said that high school they just kind of pushed him through basically. So he wants to get a better education, and he's also playing football, and he's a big dude. So, and he ends up being, I mean, we're only a couple episodes in, but he's one of my favorite characters because he's always smiling and he's pretty funny. So that kind of shows football as like an opportunity. So those were some of my takeaways from the first episode as far as like characters and plot goes.
Yeah. What about you, Liam? Who really stood out to you, or who did you like or not like?
I think Dior Walker he's a great guy, and I like his he's got maybe not a cool story. I don't think we should like try to glorify it, right? But he's got a really interesting story. The kid has to work hard. He's got to work his butt off, and essentially he's homeless. And that's tough, but it makes for a compelling story. It makes for a compelling reason to continue with football and continue getting better and playing better, so that you can get another chance somewhere else. You know what I mean? But the biggest standout to me otherwise is Coach Beam. I think that, I don't know, you could make an entire series just about him. You could probably make an entire documentary about him and his life altogether. The series touches on this a little bit. When he was a high school coach, he didn't lose a single game throughout the entire 90s.
Yes.
As a high school coach. Which
regular
is
season game.
Regular season game.
Yeah,
sorry.
But still.
Of course. So to go undefeated he probably coached the entire 90s. So to go undefeated in the regular season for the entire 90s is insanity and awesome. And he's a cool guy. He really seems to care about his players and his students, really, for what they are.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was actually going to bring that up. So all the players, they all stand out to me. I mean, I'll talk about them more when we get deeper into the series. But yeah, I kind of wanted to point out Coach Beam because I know y'all haven't seen any of the other seasons of Last Chance U, but Coach Beam is nothing like the others head coaches that is, that were on Last Chance U, both at EMCC and definitely not Independence Community College. It's interesting, because I don't know, like how do I want to say this? I'm gonna try not to spoil it because I know we'll get there eventually, or y'all will get there eventually. But at EMCC, the head coach Buddy Stevens, he's kind of like your stereotypical like Southern, like hard, like super tough old school coaches, like he's just one of those guys. Like it's either his way or the highway. And for him, that works because this dude has 4 or 5 national championships. They are the Alabama of JUCOs for a reason, and that's one way of doing it. But don't get it twisted. There's definitely clashes between guys who may have different personalities than Buddy over there. And Buddy, obviously that first season he was way tougher than what he was, but the second season he definitely softened up a little bit because he realized how he came across on Netflix on Last Chance U and tried to better himself, and you could see some of that improvement. But at the same time, you could see him like he was like, oh my gosh, he was like a volcano about to explode almost all the time. He just had a very short temper, And then over at Indy Community College, that is Jason Brown. Ironically, he's from California too, but he's from Compton. And this guy, like, he isn't exactly your stereotypical Southern head coach, but he's like, your tough coach from the hood, the guy that's going to give you a bunch of tough love. But at the end of the day, he understands you and he wants to create a good relationship with you. But he wants you to do it his way, because, because he's trying to relate to you type of thing, I don't think he forces it as much as Buddy. I might have to go back and watch that though, but it's different. So both of those guys definitely have more authoritarian type of coaching. Not that John Beam doesn't have a sort of authoritarian type to him, but he's definitely a little bit more of a relaxed, like laid back kind of guy, or at least it seems so. Like, I guess maybe more comparable to Pete Carroll, if that makes any sense, Like he's one of those guys that he really cares about you as a person. And obviously Buddy and Jason Brown, all of them like care about their players as persons. With John Beam, it seems like he's very genuine, like he would love to have them over for dinner, or he would love to do some really good stuff for them outside of the football field that doesn't even benefit him. That's the kind of coach that John Beam comes across as for me. And that's a really big deal to me because I think there's definitely an idea out there in the football world that those type of coaches are soft. Those type of coaches don't know exactly when to lay down the law, or that they're, they walk the line a little bit too much, that might be a little bit more indecisive, and I guess watching this first episode, that's kind of like some of the things that came to mind at first, and I'm not going to spoil it, but as the season goes on, it became less apparent, and John Beam does an excellent job of walking that line between being really tough and caring at the same time, like legitimately, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not all rah-rah or anything like that. Like he coaches through care for sure. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. But yeah, so let's talk about what went down in this episode. So obviously all the beginning stuff are introductions, like they go through everyone's backgrounds and whatnot. And we won't, I won't talk about that just yet, just because they go into each player that's featured, like their backgrounds, deeper in the episodes coming up. But let's talk about this game coming up, right? So like Kodey said, they are the defending national champs, and so they go ahead and they play Modesto Junior College. So let's talk about it. Obviously they lost 33-20. I guess things were going pretty good to start. At least I thought so. And then I don't know what happened, but it just slipped away. Well, what did y'all think about that game before I go deeper into it?
Well, I think that there is some trouble certainly waiting for Laney because they had some question marks at quarterback before the season even started. They had a couple of guys, but they weren't fully confident in any of them. I would say like the way they were for their starter when they won the championship. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a little bit of a competition, and there's one quarterback, Kenny, who we'll talk about later, KJ, who he's pretty behind developmentally somehow, as far as because he should have been the guy really this year based off of how long he'd been at the JUCO, but he's not. So, that was frustrating for them, and there's definitely some question marks. And I think during this game, it was kind of a lack of identity almost, and a lot of mental errors. They missed 2 field goals and an extra point attempt, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. Which
is you can't make those mistakes, especially as a defending national champion, because then teams aren't going to be afraid of they're thinking, oh, if we just hold them here to 4th down and they try and kick a field goal, then they're going to miss it, So I think that part of it was also that they were pretty complacent. So Rajon, who's once again, like I said earlier, one of the more talented athletic players on this team, he allows a touchdown, and, from a schematic point, it's the safety who should help him out on that cover 2 on the outside, because he gets burnt straight down the sideline. But I don't know, he followed him the whole way, and he's supposed to be the best player on the team, right? And so he needs to, if he's going, and he's a talker, which, if he can back it up, I'm all for, right? Cornerbacks are supposed to be cocky, they're supposed to be confident in their level of play, and they're supposed to trash talk the wide receivers. But when he's talking and yapping, and then he gets burnt on just a normal go route, there was nothing about the route that blew me away, then especially when he followed it the whole time, that's kind of a yikes moment for me. And then they miss a lot of tackles in the open field. So they had some mental mistakes on special teams. They had mental and physical mistakes on the defensive side of the ball, and they dropped some passes, including potential game winner. This DR Walker, and you could tell that he took it really seriously. Even though he made a better catch earlier in the game, so there's just, I don't know. I think they were really in their head during this first game, and that's why they stumbled out of the gate and lost to this Modesto team.
Yeah, and they're up 13-0 at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know. And to add on to Rajon, he actually led on 2 touchdowns, if y'all remember. So he had the passing one, and then the first one that Modesto quarterback scored, he kind of broke his ankles and walked into the end zone, if y'all remember that one.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was just
because Rajon was talking. Yeah. So, I'm going to just be honest. That's 14 points right there. And if you take 14 from the score, they would have won. So look, man, and I get it, I personally prefer corners that talk a little bit more, because you need that extra confidence, because playing corner is a tough job to do. You're going to get burnt. You're going to let up touchdowns. Sometimes someone just makes a better play. But on that run play, first off, there's no reason Rajon should have gotten juked out. This dude's 6'3". So nail the quarterback. That's it. Push him towards the sideline. You don't gotta, I don't know. He tried to arm tackle him low key. Maybe he was trying to strip the ball, but that's not a disciplined play. So you got to do better there. And then on that, like you were saying, Kodey, on that play where he got burnt, and sure the safety could have helped, but let's be honest, this dude Rajon, he's Rajon Wright. He's supposed to be the best cornerback in California JUCO. And I'm pretty sure he's like the second or third best in the country. So I'm going to just be honest. This ball wasn't the greatest throwing ball in the world. And this receiver isn't like 6'5" or whoever that could just body this dude. Like, he was significantly shorter than Rajon. So that's a play where, you just got to get up and you got to make him pay for throwing your way. Like, it's a, if he was paying attention and if he was playing it a little bit better, he definitely could have picked that off as well. But let's not get it twisted. It isn't exactly his fault because, in my opinion, I felt like the offense definitely sputtered a little bit. Now, obviously, Dior dropped that pass. That was an interception, or that ended in an interception. But I definitely felt like there were a couple of times where, the offense could have gotten a little bit more, not just kicking the extra field goals, but those are a big deal. But maybe capitalizing in the red zone, which they just didn't do. So, what do you think, Liam? Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think that you guys are both completely correct. There's a lot of almost personality errors going on, especially in that first game.
True.
You're just giving up on the plays. You can't be, a Rajon type and be the best player on the field and give up on plays. That's not going to get you to D1. That's not going to get you to the NFL. When are you going to start caring? Is it, if it's not at your worst opportunity, then why would it be at your best? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's cool though. I mean, it's cool watching the show and seeing that that directly impact play on the field, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you make a really good point. You can't, obviously, he already had a couple offers and whatnot, but you can't be playing lazy like that. Like, those are habits that aren't going to last you to the pros.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just facts. But yeah, I also wanted to point this out. When Coach Beam, when Dior dropped the ball, tipped it up and they intercepted it, I really liked how Coach Beam went over to Dior and told him, hey, don't worry about it. Like, you're good type of thing. Like, to me, that stood out because if that was Buddy Stevens or Jason Brown of the last seasons, they would absolutely rip into Dior. Like, they would make sure that this dude almost quits football if Dior was playing for them. I'm just going to be honest. But you really don't see that a lot, especially out of older school types of coaches. So that really stood out to me because that's from a coaching standpoint, and this is a quick, learning point right here. But from a coaching standard, when you win, there's things you take away for sure. But when you lose, there are definitely things that you can take away. But if a player doesn't have that confidence or doesn't feel like they have that confidence, some of the stuff that they could have learned from a loss won't transfer over. So it's important to not beat them down all the time and be like, hey, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll get better type of thing, right? At least that's what I think. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah. Kodey, what do you think?
No, yeah, I definitely okay. I'd say that there's a difference between the players that Beam does call out and Beam doesn't call out, right? Like when he calls out Rajon, it's because, he knows Rajon can make those plays and should make those plays. But also that, Rajon doesn't think too much if he doesn't make those plays, right? Versus Dior, no one is going to be harder on Dior than Dior is, and I think that's goes to what you're talking about as far as not only does he care about his players, but he knows his players, right? Like he knows their personality and he knows how they function. So him knowing that he doesn't have to yell at Dior because he knows that Dior is going to be harder on himself than anybody else is. And that's why he adjusts to be like, that's all right. I know that you can make that play, right? And you will next time. Instead of, calling on him to step it up, he's just saying, I know you can, and doesn't want Dior to get discouraged,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And that's a really good point. Yeah. He does know his players pretty well. And that's, I mean, as a coach, I think every coach and teacher would say that, to teach, coach up your kid the best you can, you got to know them as well. But, it's hard for some, because some people just don't pick up some of those little things as well. You know what I mean? Like, they don't empathize as well, maybe is a better way of saying it. So, yeah, no, for sure. And I think, and, this is important because if Coach Beam got on Dior, then his confidence would have dropped. And then, later on in the season, that's going to be something that, it's something to keep an eye on for sure. But, yeah, so that's all I got to say about that episode. Y'all have anything else to add about it? Any reactions? Y'all feel about it?
I'm good on this first episode, honestly, and I'm excited to, I guess if we're talking about a past tense, watch episode 2 and react to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so right here, right now, watching that first episode, how would y'all rate Last Chance U? How invested are y'all right now?
I mean, it's pretty good for an intro episode.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's really hard to judge a whole series or like even a season off of just the first episode,
Yeah, well, it's a raw reaction.
So it was good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, to be honest with you, other than watching like a couple episodes of Friday Night Tykes and stuff like that, I've never really watched like a sports show. Well, I guess I've watched Hard Knocks, so maybe I should take that back. But
yeah,
I guess I haven't really invested myself super deep into a sports show like this. That's almost documentary style. So I really liked the first episode. I'm pretty invested in it, and we're gonna keep watching. So
okay, sweet, sounds good. It is a really look. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. This is probably one of the GOAT sports documentary series out there, at least the ongoing one. So yeah, well, coming up next, we're gonna talk about one of the stars of Last Chance U, not on this season, but in a previous season, season 2 of EMCC, Dakota Allen. Coming up next, we're gonna do a breakdown.
We're back here on Playmakers Corner, and we're talking about Dakota Allen, one of the more famous Last Chance U alum who has actually made it to the NFL since appearing on Last Chance U. We'll talk about a little bit his JUCO film right now, but first I'm going to let Simon introduce his story and spoil bits and pieces of a different season of Last Chance U for us. So,
all right. So Dakota Allen, he was on the second season of Last Chance U at the original community college they started at, Eastern Mississippi Community College. And, honestly, I'm not going to talk too much about what happened in Last Chance U there, but honestly, like, he kind of just came off as somebody that really didn't belong at a JUCO. Like, maybe it's because, like, he grew up in the months between, leaving Texas Tech and going to EMCC, but he really was just somebody that, like, you just, like, why are you here? Like, you're not a JUCO guy. Like, you're a good guy. Like, you seem like a really nice guy and, someone who works super hard. And yeah, there he was. And, honestly, Dakota Allen is one of the more inspirational players to come out of JUCO, to be on Last Chance U in general. And just to throw this out there, I know we talked about Chad Kelly and his journey from EMCC to Ole Miss to the pros and, how that's going. But in my opinion, Dakota Allen is pretty much the exact opposite of Chad Kelly. And for that reason, I think he will have a longer career than Chad Kelly, potentially, but we'll see. So basically what happened with Dakota Allen, he's a middle linebacker. He played for Texas Tech. And, look, he just made a mistake. I'm not going to justify anything he did, but just keep in mind, some college athletes, student athletes, don't exactly have, how should I say this?
The level of maturity?
guidance.
Yeah, all of those things. But I was about to say, like, money, like it's hard to justify it for sure, but there's definitely some college athletes that need a little bit more extra money, whether it's for themselves or for their families, and that's just how it goes. So basically what happened is that Dakota Allen and a couple other Texas Tech football players got arrested for home burglary and gun theft over the winter break. Over a winter break, I'm pretty sure. And it was just unfortunate. He just got arrested, and so per team guidelines and whatnot, they just got cut, or maybe not cut. They got dismissed, and Dakota Allen basically was told that he cannot set foot on the Texas Tech campus for at least a year. I want to say it might have changed. It's one of those situations that changed as the season goes on. I'm looking it up now. But anyways, he went to EMCC because no other D1 school was going to take somebody with a criminal record like that. Because that's just kind of a big red flag. Like, not only was it burglary and, gun theft, but it was definitely armed robbery, I'm pretty sure, as well. Those charges eventually got dropped. So, I'm not going to speculate on that because there's a lot of things that could have been thought about that, whether it was fair, unfair, whatever. It's just one of those things, honestly, where you got to read the story for yourself or watch Last Chance U and make a decision, because it did seem a little sketchy. And let's be real, it's Lubbock, Texas, so it is what it is. But he went to EMCC. He matured greatly. He was, and honestly, he just came off as a really nice guy. I know, this isn't a religious podcast by any means, but this dude was definitely someone who was more religious and was a man of God, and he would lead Bible studies with his teammates at EMCC, and he would be in all of those, and he actually got baptized while he was at EMCC, and he talked about how this was God's plan, and God's got him, and it's just one of those things where you got to pick yourself up from a mistake, and you got to do better and give it your all and just be a better person every day. And he was just one of those types of players. And he just always had a good attitude. He worked super hard, and he was just a great leader. And it was known, honestly, on Last Chance U, they really didn't have to give him as much screen time as they did, because you just knew that he was a leader. The way he carried himself, the way he would try to, get his defensive, I hate to call out specific groups, but specifically his defensive linemen to work a bit harder, to stay on that grind. He was that dude. That EMCC defense would have been nothing without Dakota Allen. And, I'm just going to be honest, he's just one of those guys that you need in a locker room, that everyone needs in the locker room. He's a glue guy, 100%. So with that being said, we're going to break down some of his film. Obviously, I've seen some of it from watching Last Chance U, but I'm curious about what y'all think about Dakota Allen at EMCC. We have some of his JUCO film and some of his high school film, but let's start off with strengths. Kodey, Liam, either one of y'all want to start?
I can kick us off here with his strengths. So Dakota Allen, at least at the JUCO level and at the high school level, I think that he played very disciplined on the play side, and he played more aggressive on the backside of whatever play he was on. And that's kind of what you want from a linebacker. If the play is going the other direction across the field from where you are, you want your backside linebacker to really fly towards that, and act instinctively. And then on the play side, you want to make sure that they do their job and they play their gap. And at the JUCO level, he did exactly that. And I also want to applaud him as far as play recognition goes at the JUCO and high school level. He was very good, especially in the pass coverage, at playing his zone and also anticipating the snap. So Dakota Allen was brought on the blitz a lot at the JUCO and high school level, whether that was off the edge or through the middle. And he knew just how to time it so that he didn't have to get hands on him, which is the way that he had to play, because Dakota Allen is pretty undersized for a middle linebacker, but he was just so fast and great at anticipation that he was able to compensate for that and get after the quarterback or blow up the run play before it even took off. So I'd say great play recognition and his discipline on the play side. And then I'd also say that, his ability to be moved to the edge, he was just so fast off the edge that tackles at the JUCO and high school level could not catch him. So He's very fast off the edge, and that made him a serious threat, especially on pass plays when he wasn't in pass coverage. Those are my strengths of Dakota Allen at the JUCO / high school level.
All right.
I would agree with those.
Go ahead.
And I don't know. I have some pretty similar strengths. The main one for me is versatility. I think, being highly athletic and being able to be moved around the field and play anything from like small edge to middle linebacker to like even to almost a pass rushing middle linebacker, which he got brought on the blitz as a middle linebacker quite often anyway, even when he wasn't playing edge. But also being good in pass coverage, that means quite a bit to be able to be that style of player, and a system is going to find a place to put you in, and they're going to find a place to make you excel. So that's a lot to be excited about as far as his strengths. The biggest thing otherwise for me would be his patience. I think you saw it a lot, especially on like run coverage. His patience to wait to see what the running back was going to do and wait to see how the running back was going to act before he jumped on the ball and before he attacked. And he got a lot of good plays there from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was a beast in high school and at EMCC for sure. And obviously, it's JUCO, so these type of players should be dominating, right? But no, it's still impressive nonetheless. It's still football. So, like, he, more than anything, I mean, obviously he already played D1 football, like pretty close to a full season, if not a full season. So everyone kind of knew what he was about. Like, it was just one of those things like, all right, well, what's the issue? Like, what's up with that charge? So that was more of the thing with Dakota Allen. Like, nobody really doubted his football like skill. It was more like, all right, is he mature? Is he good to go? Is his grades right? And it was 100% check, no matter what. Like, from the moment he stood or stepped foot onto EMCC to leaving, he was on top of it. And congrats to him, because there are plenty of players that weren't on top of it that we'll talk about soon here. Well, maybe not soon here, but maybe in future episodes for sure. Yeah, no. So I 100% agree. Dakota Allen is a little bit, I guess, smaller for a middle linebacker. He is around 6'6". I looked it up. He's listed at 231, but that's his, obviously his pro playing weight. At EMCC, I would say he's probably closer to 220, 225. So not bad. It's okay. But honestly, he played really well for his size, though. Like, he was quick off the, I won't say this too much, but I would say that he was pretty quick, like maybe not elite speed, but he just anticipated really well. So maybe that came off as making him looking a little bit quicker than what he was. But that's a really big deal, because that just means he has really good instincts, right? Especially against the run. I would say against the run, like, he was everywhere. And, he would, in addition as well, he would also call some of those defensive plays and audibles while on defense, and that helped a lot while he was at EMCC. We saw a little bit of that on Last Chance U for sure. So, his IQ is really impressive in my opinion. He just knows where to be, and maybe if he doesn't know 100% where he's going to be, he has that feeling, and sometimes, honestly, that's just not something that you could teach in all middle linebackers and all defensive players. He just has a nose for the ball type of thing, I think y'all mentioned this a little bit before, but he has a really high motor. Like, this dude hustles while he's on the field. It'll be rare. Like, you'll be hard pressed to find a play where he's not going for the ball or chasing the ball or finishing a play. Like, he finishes a play to the whistle. And, there are definitely some players that we've done breakdowns of who, maybe they don't do that exactly. Maybe they let off the gas just a little bit, but with Dakota, he's going, as hard as he can, and which is a little bit surprising because he really doesn't have an injury history at all. Like, I tried looking it up. I really did. But I don't believe actually that he's gotten hurt a whole ton. while in college, and that includes JUCO as well. So, for someone to be working as hard and being on the field for pretty much all the snaps, that's pretty good. So durability is a huge plus for me as well. But with all that being said, let's talk some weaknesses, because there are definitely some things we could nitpick at. Do you mind if I go first?
No,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm just going to be honest. This one doesn't really have a lot to do with Dakota Allen, but it does for sure to a degree. So in season 2, EMCC's defensive line was crazy good. They had a ton of talent on there. I think they had 3 starters who all went D1. And so Tim Bonner, he's a defensive end. He was actually with EMCC that first season, I believe. He was a Louisville bounce back. So he went to Louisville, and then, he was accused of having a gun, so he left. And, he denies that accusation, but, whatever. He went to EMCC, and, he was really good while he was at EMCC, honestly. He ended up going to Florida Atlantic, right? University, FAU. A lot of Last Chance U players went there, and he kind of did his thing over there. So he was a beast at EMCC. Chauncey Rivers, he's another guy. He started at Georgia and he was kicked out because he had marijuana, and then he came to EMCC and he played fantastic as well. There were sometimes he was lazy, but he played really well, and he did end up receiving a scholarship from Mississippi State. And I'm pretty sure so the first year there, he wasn't able to play because of academic issues, but he did play the next season. So he's another D1 guy. And then after that, you got Cam Carter. I'm going to be honest, this dude was the laziest dude on defense, maybe on the entire team. I don't want to rip into him too much because this isn't about him. He really was kind of just going through the motions, to be honest. But with all that being said, this dude was a monster on the defensive line. He played defensive tackle and he killed it whenever he was out there and actually trying. And he was probably one of the best players out there. And he did end up getting a scholarship to Pitt. Only played 9 games, didn't do a whole ton, and then he transferred somewhere to another D1 school. But those are 3 guys who are all D1 guys playing against JUCO level talent. And then obviously you have Dakota Allen, who's another D1 guy playing against JUCO level talent. And all these guys have played against people on the D1 level. So, part of me, this isn't all Dakota Allen's fault, obviously, but he definitely had a lot of help. There are times where, he didn't have to do a whole ton of block shedding, so you really didn't get to see a whole ton of that. And honestly, there are definitely times where it was easy to find where the running back was because the holes or whatever that the defensive line opened up for him were huge. It was obvious. You really couldn't have missed it unless you have the vision of Trent Richardson. Second-year pro Trent Richardson. So there you go. It was really hard not to be super good if you were Dakota Allen. But yeah, so that's really all I got to say about Dakota Allen in terms of weaknesses at EMCC, though. So, what about y'all?
Kodey, go ahead.
So his weaknesses at Dakota Allen / the high school level, just because there's more film there. So, I talked about discipline on the play side, but there are also times where he looked a little worried to make a mistake on the play side. So instead of filling a gap at the line of scrimmage, he tackled the running back 3 or 4 yards past the line of scrimmage when he recognized it and he saw it, and he could have made the play sooner, but he played it safer, it's a nitpicking. I'll admit that. And I'd also say that while he's fast off the edge and fast on the blitz, his lateral quickness left something to be desired. His arms and legs didn't look like they were coordinated, if that makes sense, when he was moving from side to side. So I'd say playing conservative on the play side, his lateral quickness left something to be desired. And also he didn't show a plethora of moves or engagement while blitzing. And we'll talk about the repercussions of that at the collegiate level here in a little bit. Pass it over to you, Liam.
Well, to be honest, just so looking at watching his, I'm a little bit less experienced with defensive play and how to address defensive play and defensive weakness. But I would agree for the most part with what both of you said. Looking at his high school and JUCO stuff, he definitely, I think that he doesn't have the best hands, just to be honest with you. I know it's not really the greatest complaint against like a middle linebacker or an edge, but if you're going to be going for, I think that he doesn't try to break up passes very much. He's very conservative. He goes for the tackle. He doesn't play the ball. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say. And he doesn't. Like Kodey said, he's not aggressive enough in that playmaking situation. Like sometimes he'd have the step on the guy and he'd just go for the tackle, right? He wouldn't go for the pass breakup. He wouldn't go for the pass deflection or even the interception. Best of all, right? So I think maybe that's a mental thing where he's not confident enough in his own hands and in his own playmaking ability to attempt that, right? Like the interceptions that I saw were him. Yes, I think he made one aggressive interception, but for the most part, they were just kind of like the ball was thrown to him, right? So I don't know. That's my take on it.
I hear you.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. Actually, well, I honestly that just kind of applies to him just being a little bit more conservative in general. There are definitely times he should have pushed, the tempo a little bit. Like he should have been a little bit more aggressive. And I would agree with the interceptions or pass deflections for sure. Like, I don't know, maybe if it's just because he feels a little awkward, like getting into the right angle, or maybe he just doesn't know how to get into the right angle of like either picking off the ball or, maybe not like jumping a route, but like he has, how should I say this? I feel like he just couldn't, I don't know, like he was just super disciplined, right? Which is good. But there are definitely times where maybe he, like Kodey said, he second thought, like he second guessed himself, and he was afraid that if he jumped the route, then it would throw him off and throw him out of position to be in, to make a good football play, a good conservative football play, I should say. I think that's the word I'm trying to get out. So yeah, I totally agree on, especially pass defense wise, he could have been way better in my opinion. But
yeah,
it worked out.
One thing I would say about that is like maybe he has his coach's voice in his ear. You know what I mean?
True.
What I mean? Like maybe he's hearing his coach say, just make the tackle, just make the play, just hit the guy, just bring him down, stop the the big yardage. And maybe he's not trusting himself enough.
That's a really good point. I'm pretty sure it should have been that. I'm pretty sure it was that as well. Buddy Stevens is definitely one of those guys. He definitely relies on his defensive line a lot to shut down a play before it even starts. So if anybody gets through his defensive line guys, it's up to, his linebackers to, hey, just make the conservative play and we'll give us a chance, give the defensive line a chance to make something happen. And I mean, I don't know if that's just how they're structured, but like, this dude, Buddy Stevens, brings in a ton of really good defensive linemen every year and then churns them back out into the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, whatever, So maybe that's just a scheme of things as well, but I don't know. Well, we could talk about that more when we talk about Texas Tech, though.
I was about to say, does anyone have any other comments on his weaknesses or strengths before we transition into his Texas Tech days?
No.
Nope.
All right, so coming up next on Playmakers Corner, we're going to talk about Dakota Allen in college and preview what he has to do to take a step forward in the pros. Coming up next.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner. In this segment, we're going to be talking about Dakota Allen and his adventures at Texas Tech and kind of breaking that down and, again, going through strengths, weaknesses, and maybe a pro comparison. Anybody want to kick it off?
I'll go and start on his strengths because I'm going to be speaking a lot more on his weaknesses here in a bit. But I will say that Dakota Allen, I think that he was pretty good in pass coverage at Texas Tech. I think that, he was able to stop the play before it got worse. I'd also say that he's pretty fast at Texas Tech, and a lot of the plays that he makes were from being quick. Whether that was flying to the hole or flying to the quarterback, and he was able to make up ground sometimes. And for the most part, he also was pretty technical on his tackles and compensated for his size fairly well, just through technique alone, as far as like breaking down and aiming for the hips. So those are my big strengths for Dakota Allen at Texas Tech.
Okay.
Want me to go?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Honestly, he really didn't miss a step. He was pretty good, honestly. Like, he picked up everything well. I think this is just a testament to his football IQ. And it really didn't seem like there was ever a time he was on the field and he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing or what somebody else was supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying? And let's be honest, this Texas Tech defense wasn't they weren't anything to write home about. They're still not. And Kodey Allen was just one of those bright spots. Maybe it was because of Last Chance U as well, but he really just stepped up and led the defense the best he could. And he led them against some pretty tough offenses. The offenses of Oklahoma, which I want to say he definitely played against Baker Mayfield. I think he played against Tyler? No, wait. Yeah, he did play against Kyler Murray. Yeah, so both really good quarterbacks at Oklahoma, obviously. And then, everywhere else around the Big 12, like, they have some dudes around there as well, like Brock Purdy over at Iowa State and, Texas with Sam Ehlinger and all that great stuff as well. But, he honestly just stepped up. He led a really good defense, and the IQ was really impressive to me. Knew where to be. The instincts were there. I felt like he got better. Like, he got better athleticism-wise and weight-wise as well. Like, he put on a couple more pounds, and he was able to hang in with some of those offensive linemen for sure. I really liked seeing him use his hands and whatnot when pass rushing and all that great stuff. Yeah, I'll leave it right there for now. But yeah, those are my strengths.
Okay. I gotta agree. He definitely seemed like the most intelligent. Yeah, I'll make that. I'll make that claim. I feel like he was maybe the most intelligent guy on the field for those defenses. Always at least seemed to not get tripped up as far as like biting on play action or whatnot. Never seemed to get confused with what the play actually was that was breaking down in front of him. Maybe missed a hole or two, or maybe missed a block or sold out to just block a lineman as opposed to trying to get around the lineman. But definitely, addressed all the plays pretty well, I think. At least from what I watched. So I would say intelligence is definitely a strong suit, especially as we get into more athletic competition that's either just as athletic as him or stronger or better. And as he loses that edge, his intelligence is able to shine.
Right. All right. What about weaknesses?
Weaknesses? Oh man, he's definitely he definitely. I wouldn't say that he slowed down, but the competition sped up. You know what I mean? Like, the world got faster around him, and he couldn't. I don't want to say he couldn't keep up, right? He kept up, but it was like suddenly everybody's on his level, and suddenly everybody's above his level, and it showed. So I think his agility got him so far, and now he's here. Or now he's not here anymore. He's not in college anymore. But now he was here, and it's not getting him any further. Really.
Yeah.
So that'd be my biggest weakness for him.
Get that. Kodey, do you want to go next, or should I?
You go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, look, he's not like, an athletic freak or anything. Like I said, he's a little bit on the lighter side. Look, I'm just gonna be honest. I kind of felt like he wasn't as explosive as I would like him to be. Like obviously he'll know where the ball is and he'll anticipate it pretty well, but just the level of explosiveness that I would have loved to see out of Dakota Allen, for him to truly succeed on the NFL level just wasn't there. I mean, I don't know if it's the weightlifting or it's just his body type and whatnot, but like it was just, I don't know. Like it could have been, there was more to be desired for sure. Like I think in short areas, quick bursts, like it was fine. It was pretty all right. But when he definitely had a little bit more of like a runway to the guy, and like it was like, oh my gosh, like he would have really clean runways to players maybe on a screen. Like he just didn't I don't know. He just didn't blow them up like he should have. Like he didn't light them up like I wish he could have. And so that's definitely something to critique him on. Also, I would say pass rushing wise, like, he's fine. Like he has quick hands and whatnot. Like he knows how to use his hands, but the thing is he used a lot of finesse moves when trying to get around linemen. Like I feel like he didn't do a great job of absorbing a block and then really fighting to get that off. Like I think that really has to do with his strength on that level for sure. Because he just didn't have very strong hands. Like there are some guys who have very strong hands, and maybe they have boxing backgrounds or whatnot. But with Dakota Allen, it was just I don't know. Like I wanted to see him like just rip an offensive tackle or guard's like arm off of him, but I really didn't see that. I saw him ducking and doing really nice nifty swim moves and being very technical. He just didn't do it for me. He just wasn't as strong as I'd like to see him in. So I think strength in general, explosiveness for sure, is something that was kind of a big deal when it came to Dakota Allen. In my opinion, that is. So yeah.
I can bring us home here with Dakota Allen. I was not very impressed by his film at Texas Tech. I think that he got blocked super easily by linemen, especially linemen who got to the second level. Like, I think as soon as a lineman got their hands on him, he wasn't going to make a play. And I think that Simon had a strong point that Dakota Allen just isn't as strong as he needed to be to take that next step. And I think he regressed a lot in his second season at Texas Tech from his first season at Texas Tech. I think that also maybe Liam had a point about like the coach being in his ear or something, and he overthought things. But sometimes he would just whiff on the hole, and that's not something that I'd like to see out of a middle linebacker, especially when he ends up going, like he would just be on the outside of the hole, and like the hole where he was supposed to be was like pretty obvious, and he just missed a lot of the time. And I don't know, some of the angles that he was taking weren't very impressive to me, especially like to make sideline plays. He would be kind of flat, and I feel like he just needs to know that he's not as fast, so he might have to take like a wider angle to get to the ball, and he just didn't do a very good job of that. And I'd say that he was, I think his size caught up to him at that level, especially against those huge linemen. He just wasn't able to compete really as much, and that's why he ended up going in the 7th round of the NFL draft. Was, I just don't think that he got big enough or didn't improve in the offseason. And so then that next year, after people had film on him, they knew how to counter him, and it was pretty easy for teams to get around him, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agreed. Have y'all looked up his combine numbers as well?
Yes. So
yeah,
he had
those.
He ran a 4.77 on his 40-yard dash. He had 23 reps on bench press, and his top speed on the 40 was like a 17.5 miles per hour. It wasn't near an 18, which he really scored kind of poorly on a lot of his combines. And the only thing that kind of carried him to the final grade that he had, which out of 100 was a 47, the only thing that really carried him was his agility, which, I never doubted. And we've always talked about his finesse and, like he can move, but I don't know. He definitely did not help out his case with this combine.
No. So that's that. Okay, well, let's talk about Dakota Allen and the pros. So I'm just going to give a quick review. He was drafted by the Rams, I'm pretty sure. So he was on their practice squad. He made some plays in the preseason, but obviously it wasn't enough because he went to the practice squad. Then I want to say the Raiders picked him up for a little bit, and then they dropped him. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars currently have Dakota Allen. So yeah, but with Dakota Allen, let's talk about some of the things he could do to succeed on this next level, and then we could talk comparisons with that. Is it okay if I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sweet. Look, straight up, I'm not concerned about this dude, getting in trouble or not being able to learn a playbook on time. Like, in my opinion, he's someone that could be a very reliable guy. Honestly, he just has a couple things he needs to tweak. And maybe if it means going to the XFL potentially and tweaking it there and kind of maybe becoming a star there, or even the CFL, that might be the move, because there have definitely been players that needed a little bit more time. Look at Cameron Wake. He was one of those players for sure. So I'm not going to put out of the question that Dakota Allen could be really good, because he does work really hard. But the things that he needs to work on especially is, I think he needs to just get better as a pass defender, straight up. Because there were definitely times at Texas Tech as well, and in some of the preseason games where he would sit in his zone and he'd do his job and not. But I would like to see him be, use his instincts a little bit more and be a little bit, well, maybe not a little bit, a lot more aggressive as a pass defender. I'd like to see him really get his hands in there and either pick off the ball or deflect it. Because there are plenty of times at Texas Tech where he would let the player catch the ball in front of him and then make the quick tackle. And look, that's cool. You're being conservative and he's a good tackler, but if the pass play could be prevented altogether, then do it. So I think he needs to gain some confidence, a little bit more awareness with that, and just be a better pass defender. Even in man too, like he has some things he needs to work on. He needs to get a little bit smoother and whatnot. And honestly, because he is a linebacker, use your hands. And that kind of brings me to my next point, get stronger hands. I don't know what he got to do, whether he has to box a little bit more or, lift a bunch more, but he needs to get stronger hands. And it's possible. Strong hands, it's not exactly a genetic thing. Sometimes it is, but I definitely think he could get much better and have much stronger hands just knowing him. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. And then my comparisons, I would say, okay, it's a little hard. He might actually have to switch positions, but he could definitely still play linebacker. I would say his ceiling might be a lesser version of Deion Jones to a degree, because they kind of have the same, body type and whatnot for sure. I'm pretty sure they're both 6'1", 230. Deion Jones might weigh a little bit more, and he's definitely a lot faster, but I could see some Deion Jones in him for sure. If he could, because I feel like he has the ability to be a better pass defender as well. So if he shores that up, I could see a lot of Deion Jones, really good against the run, stuff like that, but a little bit lighter and could be versatile and moved around for sure. Obviously his floor would be not a pro player, but if I really had to pick, I would probably pick Mark Barron, maybe. A solid, okay, rotational third, second string type of guy. Could maybe start 1 or 2 NFL games, not playoff games, but regular season games potentially, and not, be a complete screw up. I could see a lot of Mark Barron for sure, just kind of being a little bit out of place because of the way he is, because of how hard he works, because he's a great locker room guy. He'll be around for sure. Yeah, but he does have a lot of development. What am I saying? Developing. I'm sorry. I'm dying right now. He has a lot of developing to do, but it's really not that far off in my opinion. I think it's pretty attainable in my opinion. It's not like it's, out of this world. So that's what I gotta say about Dakota Allen. And I would bet on Dakota Allen achieving those than Chad Kelly ever achieving his ceiling. So even half of his ceiling. So there you go.
Mind if I pick up where you left off there, Simon?
Yes.
So actually, I was going to say Dakota Allen's ceiling is Mark Barron because they're pretty similarly sized, but both are too slow to play safety. And the most unfortunate thing about Dakota Allen, I think, is you can't coach speed. And I think that, if he wanted to be a starting linebacker in the NFL, he'd have to get a lot faster. So I think, but as far as things that he can work on, he has to continue with his agility. And I think that he could be a passing down guy who could also be brought in on the blitz, but he does have to get stronger. And that's something that you can work on. He needs to hit the weight room. I don't worry about him mentally, but, I think he needs to play for a linebackers coach that's going to inspire him and, have the confidence in him to make the plays that he needs to make. So, hey, go after that pass over the middle. All right. And try and make a play on it because I know you can. Right. And part of that's just he has to try and get faster. He's not going to get dramatically faster, but he has to get faster in game, if that makes sense. So he needs to work drills that are going to help him in game. And he also needs to lift weights. I think that's what he needs to do to become a Mark Barron-esque guy because Mark Barron, he's been around in the league for a long time and he gets a lot of tackles because he flies to the ball. And he's strong for his size. And that's what Dakota Allen has to do. Just because I don't think he'll be as fast as a Deion Jones. And that's saying something that Deion Jones is like he's faster than Mark Barron, who started as a safety, And I just don't think that Dakota Allen is, like, if he moves, he has to be like a passing down linebacker if he's going to succeed in the NFL. What were you going to say, though, Simon?
I was just going to say, I don't think he's going to ever be as fast as Deion Jones. I was thinking more technically, because I feel like technically Deion Jones is one of the better pass defenders in the league. I mean, am I wrong there? Because I mean that's where I was coming from with that, because Dakota Allen, he's not going to get faster.
No. I was just saying from like that point of view. I wasn't saying like the whole Deion Jones wasn't a comparison. I was just saying he would not be as fast as Deion Jones. So like he'd have to get better in other ways.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why I said lesser Deion Jones. Is that what I said?
I believe so. I wasn't throwing your whole comparison out the window. I was just using it as like a prop to what he needs to get good at.
Oh, for sure. And I mean I completely agree. But yeah, I mean I'm just throwing that out there like with Deion Jones, like I think cuz I know he could do it, be as technically sound, be maybe the most technically sound, pass defenders at the linebacker spot that is in the NFL because he has that work ethic and he's made really big leaps of progress before because he was just a 3-star linebacker out of Texas, so there you go. But yeah, no, I like the comparison though.
And then I'd say like I think that's his ceiling, but I think his most realistic comparison for Dakota Allen is an LJ Fort kind of guy, where I feel like with his hustle and with his motivation and with his being conservative and smart on the field, I think he'd be a great special teams player, whether that's on kickoff or whether that's on punt. And, that sounds like a slight, but it's really not. You need special teams guys that are going to make plays for you and that, are going to make the smart plays because if one team beats you in special teams, they only have to beat you in one other area of the game to win the football game. Is kind of my eyes on special teams. So I think that a guy like Dakota Allen would be a huge contributor on special teams, and I think that he could even make some Pro Bowls or, just by racking up tackles on the special teams and being the guy that you trust even to like, call what the punt or kickoff coverage is.
I like that. I could see a lot of Tyler Matakevich. Sorry, the linebacker from the Steelers. I could see that as well. But yeah, a special teamer.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. And they're important, and I think that he's a guy who could really help out a special teams guy and be, whether that's, I think, he could even help out on return teams, if he just goes out and hits somebody and he plays hard. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with all that as well. And I mean, the most telling thing is that he didn't make the team that he was drafted to. He didn't make the team that first picked him up, and while he did kind of make the team with the Jaguars, he played one game with them and got one tackle. So he probably played, I don't know, upwards of like 10 downs max, right, in that one game. And that's probably when somebody was honestly having like just a little bit of stamina issues on the team. So they subbed him in for a couple packages or something. So I think that's incredibly telling, at least as far as how he's not been able to take the success that he wanted into the NFL and been able to succeed in the NFL so far. That being said, I don't think that it's impossible for him to succeed in the NFL. I think he has the intelligence. I think he has the wherewithal and the guts to work through it. And I think that he can succeed. But it's going to take work, obviously, and it's going to take somebody believing in him and giving him a shot rather than him kind of earning it at this point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, I think, I don't know, I have a couple pro comparisons for him. I think the highest that I would say he could maybe work to is like an Eric Kendricks type.
Like that.
Like a good solid middle linebacker, could maybe make a Pro Bowl as that middle linebacker, but probably more of a, I don't know, if he got faster, more of a cover linebacker and more of like a smash mouth style. Otherwise, I would say more like a Josie Jewell, somebody who's probably too slow to really be playing the position, but also too short or too not strong enough to be playing another position, you know? But is a great guy, has a great mental game, knows where the ball's going, attacks the ball, and earns a spot because of that, you know? Especially on rundowns. So I think those would be at least the ceilings in my mind. Josie Jewell maybe a bit of a floor as well, but Josie Jewell maybe has similar stuff in regards to the two players, but has a position, has a job, and sees games and gets tackles and whatnot. So yeah, I think on a maybe if he goes to a team that has a poorer linebacker room, he could work his way up to a starter, I think, if somebody believes in him.
All right. I mean, that's not bad at all. I mean, honestly, like I could believe in Dakota. I mean, I am gonna believe in Dakota Allen. Like, I wouldn't doubt this dude for 1 second, if I'm being honest. Like, he can make it happen. But you know, obviously there'll have to be some things that go his way. Like, I kind of feel like at the same time, you already mentioned this, like, there's just going to be things that he can't control, you know? Yeah. Like, he can't control who his coaches are sometimes. So he just really needs a coach that could, you know, invest in him and, you know, maybe unlock something else in him. Because I think there's a little bit more there, to be honest. So, I don't know. We'll have to see. And honestly, like, I'm just going to throw this out there. Dakota Allen's the type of player who, if he couldn't play football anymore, like pro football, that is, like, he would be more than okay, because he's a very smart guy as well. I can't find the degree he graduated with, but I know he has one. But he would be more than okay, and he'd probably be an excellent coach. You know? So, but we'll see.
Right. And that's I think where a lot of coaches come from, is they had the mental game and they had the physical game for quite a while, but then it fell off in the NFL, and now they're coaching because they understand the game perfectly and they know where they fell short, so they know what needs to be seen.
Yeah, no doubt. He'll be all right either way.
Yeah.
I really would like to see him in a developmental league, though, whether it's the XFL or CFL, because I think, honestly, at this point, that might be more beneficial than him hopping from NFL team to NFL team, because I feel like there's just not enough time when he's on NFL teams for short stints to really, like, learn something that's meaningful, because there just might not be that one-on-one time available. So if he does go to the XFL or CFL where it is a little bit more his level, and he has the opportunities to learn a bit more and take his time, I think that'll be much more beneficial.
Yep.
I agree completely.
Sweet.
I could even see him making a career in the XFL, honestly.
Yes.
And I don't think that'd be the worst thing in the world for Dakota Allen or in the CFL. So
I mean,
Oh,
he'll
no.
probably make more money with a career there than being paid the league minimum at the NFL level. Maybe.
I don't know. The league minimum's pretty
Am
good.
I wrong?
The league minimum's pretty good.
It's only getting better, maybe.
I don't know.
It usually is.
Yeah.
But we'll see, though, because, I mean, like, the way I'm thinking about it, say he goes to the XFL and he becomes, like, the face of the XFL. I'm going to be honest, they're not going to be able to pay him a lot more money, but they might be able to give him something more valuable, like a stake in the company. Maybe The Rock
Right.
makes it happen, because this is a smart guy. Like, he knows what he's doing, and to be honest, like, one day he probably could be a commissioner of a football league. I'm just being honest. Or maybe a players representative. I don't know, something like that. So that might be even, a little bit more beneficial for him in the long run, considering if he makes XFL good and, helps them stabilize out, there could be a lot of, this goes for anybody, but there could be a lot of really good financial opportunities there for sure.
Sure.
But yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's all I have on Dakota Allen. I obviously wish him the best. And, we'll be keeping tabs on him. And he'll succeed somewhere, somehow, in something.
Yeah.
That
No doubt.
does it for this episode of Playmakers Corner podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as far as social media goes. You can listen to this podcast and share it with your friends on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, as well as a plethora of others that you can find readily available on Anchor. And I believe on YouTube?
Yes.
Yes. I've been just told yes by Simon. So on YouTube as well. Please share us with your friends. If you have any prospects that you'd like us to look at, or any experiences in the JUCO realm or in the high school realm from a coach or player perspective or as a prospect perspective, just let us know. We'd love to have you on the show. I've been Kodey Stauffer.
I am Simon Villanos.
And I was Liam Hughes.
Thank you so much for joining us on episode 2. Catch us on episode 3.